Hello everyone, I'm Kate. In this next section, we will be approaching the traditional chalk and talk teaching strategy and combining it with collaborative technologies in order to enhance student learning. This method can be adopted for most explanatory lessons and works most effectively when you have already put in the time and effort to establish a strong and inclusive group work culture within your class. This activity borrows from Linda's examples of sharing Google Docs for student work. Much like all of the lessons that we set as educators, this type of activity should be tailored not only to the subject area in which you teach, but also with regards to the stage and abilities of the students in that particular class. With this in mind, I'm going to explain two different levels of complexity with regards to this activity, and then explore in greater detail the way that I've used this type of collaboration with my Year 10 English class. The key to establishing any kind of new activity or type of learning, particularly for younger or newer subject learners, is scaffolding. Whereas senior students are more often able to digest verbal instructions and then independently follow them through, this kind of open ended activity has the potential to be overwhelming and therefore present a barrier to entry. That's completely counterproductive, as the beauty of collaborative note taking lies in its simplicity. In order to complete this kind of activity with younger or less independent classes, I recommend that you follow these steps. Decide on which information is essential and what might be supplementary. This step works a little like backwards engineering in Design for Learning. Begin with what you want your students to know, understand, or be able to do, and then work towards making that happen. How will you make sure that your students can tell which information is most important? Is there a way that you can embed differentiation into your lecturing information so that elementary students are able to glean the essentials, but more advanced learners are given the opportunity to supplement and explore the information? How will you check that those key notes have been taken, either on the go or at the close of the activity? In order to ascertain the students note down this essential information, scaffold the note taking in a helpful way. Just like sermon outlines at church on Sunday, some scaffolds are better suited to types of information than others. My suggestions for scaffolding include tables, close passages, prompting questions, or even sentence starters. Scaffolding can be as broad or as targeted as you'd like. Assign either elements of information to each group member, or areas of the document to each group member, or even a combination of both. Perhaps you can identify individual roles with colour coding or columns in a table. Remember, you don't need to have this step perfect the first time you run the activity, as by nature, each group of students will refine the process in a way that is meaningful to them. Establish learning groups well before the beginning of the activity. Based on the needs of your class, it may be beneficial for you to group by ability or interest rather than friendship. Ensure that each group has a captain, which is the term that I use, and that the captain knows how to share a document with others. I'd also recommend that you assign a group member, perhaps one different to the team captain, whose role it is to record the process of collaboration on their screen, to submit along with their finished notes. In a moment, I'll give a brief overview of how your students can do this screen recording. Provide each team captain with a copy of the scaffolded document and get them to share the document with their group. Deliver your information to the students and provide explicit prompting as needed in varying degrees. In every case, at the close of the activity, I recommend that groups are given the opportunity, I like to use a jigsaw format, to discuss their knowledge and understanding with members of the class who are outside of their group, just to consolidate that learning. Running this activity with older students can look different, but there is also no harm in providing a similar level of scaffolding if the need arises. I recently used this activity at the front of a unit on Macbeth, knowing that students would need to digest a large amount of contextual knowledge in a short amount of time before we could read the play and understand it. Where in the past I have distributed prepared notes on a subject and instructed students to highlight or annotate these notes or else copy down information from the board, I now get them to take notes collaboratively while I present information in the form of a seminar or lecture. Here is a quick rundown of one way to get your designated group member to perform a similar recording. Begin on the screen with the shared doc open. Open PowerPoint in desktop mode and select Recording or Mix tab. The Google Docs screen will pop up again as PowerPoint will jump back to the last viewed tab. Using the box at the top of this screen for tools, students should be able to select the amount of the screen that they would like to record. They then click the red circle up the top in that dialog box to begin the recording, and they don't need to touch the controls until the note-taking time has finished. Once stop is clicked, the recording video will automatically be inserted into the PowerPoint presentation. Students then, using the Mix tab, export the presentation as a video or MP4 and save as a video file which can be shared on Google Drive. I wouldn't save the video any higher than 720p. It will just take too long and it's not quality that you'll need for these purposes. Here is an example of this note-taking activity taking place in real time. I recorded my own screen using PowerPoint Mix and toggled between each of the shared documents as I lectured to better show you how the students were engaging with the activity. This activity has seen several iterations in order to help students to figure out the method of collaborative note-taking that suits their own group best. Some students format their notes in a table, with each student listening and typing up the information at the same time, whereas other groups like to divide the load so that two of them note down my teaching as I speak, and maybe two others follow along behind and focus on cleaning up or making the notes more fluent or correct if a mistake was made. The strengths of this type of note taking lie in the student's ability to clarify on the go through the comments function on Google Docs, as well as seeing the way that their peers are interpreting, organizing, and restating the information that's being given. There is also benefit in having such transparency between teacher and students to formatively assess students' understanding and note taking ability, as well as to get a solid understanding of which members of a group are the lifters and which are the leaners. Please take the time now to respond to the prompt questions underneath and also to think about how you might apply this to some of your lessons.